Good morning, everyone. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, our beloved Guru Deva, Paramahansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, beloved Swamiji, we humbly bow before you all. Divine Mother, great masters, help us to attune ourselves ever more perfectly to your divine presence within. We are eternally grateful for the gifts we have been given in this life, not the least of which is a beautiful community of souls that we live with, both here and around the world. Help us to become ever increasingly pure channels for the teachings that are given to us through this great community from you into this world. Oh, peace. Amen. We had such a delightful meeting here in Palo Alto a few nights ago. It was a rather simple topic in some ways, the way so many teachings on the path are. But I thought to share it this morning, share some of what happened at that meeting with all of you. Many of you know, I'm sure, that I'm here in the Ananda community. I'm actually in our beautiful temple right now in Palo Alto, California, United States. And I imagine that many of you know that this is right in the heart of what has been called Silicon Valley, which is really the beginning of so much of what is now considered just usual in our world of computers and electronics. And I don't know that we're the only center anymore, but it all started here, and it's big here. And over more than 30 years ago now, we purchased and have moved into a community in Mountain View. And the community probably houses 120 people or so, but at least maybe 80 of us are devotees and on this path. And I remember I was reading just recently when Swami Kriyananda came, not long after we had purchased this community. He was talking to us, and he mentioned what a great gift it was that this community is where it is, and that we're here to spread spiritual teachings of this great master right in the heart of where progress that was being made was really about dehumanizing. That was his word, so much of what's going on in the world. And of course, that's right. I'm sure he was talking about just the way so much was moving into the computer world, where robots were being built. I remember the first time Most of you also know that I'm a physician, along with a lot of the work that I do here, or serving, I should say, that I do with Ananda. And the first time I was at Stanford Hospital, and you open an elevator and there's a robot walking down the hall with trays of medicines or supplies. It's a little startling, but so much more artificial intelligence, and on it goes. And here we are sitting right at the heart of that. And Swamiji said, what a great gift that we have this community here now to bring these teachings here. And he also went on to say the ripple effect that it would have, that we weren't just going to be sharing these teachings amongst ourselves or bringing these teachings into the community, but that the ripple effect would go out and that it would affect people all around us, but really all over the world is what's happened, of course. A few nights ago, we were meeting with a group of people who are in what is called sadhaka training. It's one of the many groups that exist throughout Ananda, but it's a group of people, all of whom have taken Kriya initiation and are now being part of a year-long study group to learn or dive deeper, really, into a lot of the spiritual principles. They're general spiritual principles, but principles that Master and Swamiji have been teaching us. And also it's a path where people are getting ready to take a vow to be part of an Ananda community. It's a very special year to be a part of, no matter which way you're a part of it, if you're taking the training for the first time, or if you're one of us who has the privilege of sharing these teachings. The topic this week was community, and the discussion was being led by Nayaswami Chidambar, who was with Ananda several years, at least, if not many, before this community was purchased. So he was here when we had offices or houses for people to live in. One office above I'm forgetting, I'm just blocking on which one right now. I can see it just a few blocks from here, but above a printing and mailing shop. Everybody was very creative in how to lay down the roots for the community long before the physical community existed. And the whole discussion was fascinating and inspiring at many levels. First of all, because so many of the things that we study or review or listen to on the path, they're not new to us. We've heard about them many times. We've been hearing about community forever. Many of us either live in community or we're part of this bigger community of Ananda, Palo Alto, and then the Bay Area. So the community is not simply a physical space, though that is one community, but it just expands out in concentric circles of people who are very involved with Ananda Palo Alto. But there certainly was a community even before the physical community was bought. But we've been talking about community all of these years. And as I sat in that meeting, that was, as I said, very inspiring, and I will share some of why it struck me in that way. But I realized yet again how much the spiritual path really is climbing this spiral staircase. And when we envision that staircase, we see we keep going around those same 360 degrees. And at any point, if we look out, the view is similar, but always from a different perspective. when we think about climbing a staircase, we're just getting higher, but it really does afford us a completely different view. And on the spiritual path, since that's the direction that we, of course, want to be going, raising our energy, each time we come around and we look at these concepts, again, some of them very simple, but there's always that opportunity to go so much deeper with them. That happened for me on Wednesday night with this topic of community, in large part because Chidambar just presented it so beautifully. He spoke about what it was like before the community, what it was like purchasing it. He talked about how he looked at it and he thought to himself, whoa, this is big. What are we going to do with all of these apartments? And how he grew into, expanded into seeing how they would be filled, how much his energy right at the beginning, everybody's energy right at the beginning when the community was really run down in every sense of the word, physically. There was a lot of dark energy in the apartments, a lot of people living there who we could not ask to leave, but we got very creative. And he shared a lot of those stories about helping people find other housing so that as our energy expanded, as we brought more and more light into the community until this whole space, all of these beautiful acres that we have are just filled with light everywhere. It's physically beautiful, it's uplifting, it is infused with the teachings of Master and Swamiji in every way, from the physical beauty to the spirit of the place. And Chidambar just talked about that so beautifully. And as other people shared, and many of us shared about how visiting any Ananda community feels like not coming home, but arriving there and being home, and how obvious it is that the core of our community is this great teacher, avatar, Paramahansa Yogananda, and his great disciple, Swami Kriyananda, and their energy, and that really the essence of what makes community is each of us attuning ourselves to their energy. So the physical space matters, and again, I'll talk in a little bit about some of how and why, but it's all energy. It's all of the energy behind it manifesting in that physical space. And it's us bringing our effort and our energy into it that is what makes the community. I wanted to read to you what Swami Kriyananda said in his own words about his interest in community, because even as a teenager, he wanted to start communities. Now, of course, he didn't consciously know right then that he was going to meet his guru, who was also, it wasn't just that he was inspired to create communities. He came in large part to create these communities, world brotherhood colonies, he called them, of simple living and high thinking. But the story is charming, at least, and inspiring at best, to really feel this progression of Swamiji finding his way to Master, of Master finding Swamiji and drawing him back. Swamiji says, I myself first had this dream during my mid-teens. It was in the early 1940s when World War II was raging in Europe and would soon spread to the Pacific. He says, I dreamed of a way of life based not on coercion, but on mutual cooperation and respect. Not on frenetic materialism, Swamiji says, but on high ideals. Not on large size and on arrogantly assumed power over others, but on smallness and goodwill among true friends, encouraging one another to pull together without cancerous jealousy of position and without the incentive of shouted slogans and bullying control. This is what he was thinking of when he was a teenager. And now we can fast forward years later when he was 22 and he met Yogananda. And many of us have heard of the now infamous through Swamiji garden party in Beverly Hills, where Yogananda was guest of honor and the main speaker. Swamiji says very charmingly, because when Master stood up to speak and Swamiji said he thundered this talk, he didn't just say it, but Swamiji says about Master in his own words. He said, since inspiration does tend to ignore petty circumstances, I just love that line. Meaning, Master had this inspiration. It was to be delivered right then. And the fact that it was in a garden party in Beverly Hills, where this was probably not what the hosts or any of the guests were expecting, nonetheless, this is what Master said, and we've all heard it. He said, this day, Swamiji says, he thundered. So you can just imagine, particularly if you've ever heard Master's voice, pure spiritual power, marks the beginning of a new era. Thousands of youths must go north, south, east, and west to spread these ideas. I am sowing these thoughts in the ether, he said, and my words shall not die. And here we are, because Swami Kriyananda was there, he heard, and he even said hundreds of people were there. He said, and yet he seemed to have been the only person who heard those words, but he was determined right from that moment to create these communities of simple living and high thinking. And there's so much to say about communities. Every morning now where I'm sitting down to give these little 30-minute talks, I'm saying to myself, remember this. This is a day-long class. This is a day-long class. This is a lifelong class. So we look at community, at the notion of community, of people coming together who share ideas or ideals. And in this case, and I think very importantly, we share all that we hold dear spiritually. Communities come together for very different reasons, but I've thought about this for many years now. What other than our very highest ideals coming together to know God, to find God specifically, why we come here, through meditating together, through serving God by serving our fellow man, our guru bhais. Nothing less than that could really keep a community together. Because as soon as you introduce personalities and all human qualities, it's challenging. We all know that. It's not like we came together in spiritual community and by God's grace left our personalities outside. That didn't happen. In fact, many of us know, when we've come to know, if we didn't at first, it's those very personalities, even of our Guru Bhais, never mind ourselves, that has us climbing the ladder of this path. It helps us. We kind of fine tune our spiritual qualities, serving each other, serving God through each other. That means we have to do it together. We have to find ways to reach our goal. If our goal was anything less than that, it would be hard to choose what Swami used to call so beautifully, so perfectly, in divine friendship, where we find ways not simply to transcend the personalities, our own personality and that of everybody else, but to transform the energy that might have been expressed through us: competition, gossip, greed, jealousy, cancerous jealousy, Swamiji called it. All of these things. No, ours is a community where its sole purpose is to find God. And whether we are in the physical community, which has its own and very big benefit. So if we're in a position to do that, and if it is our karma to do that, what a blessing. And if not, then we're part of a larger community. And I watch great, great souls every day doing this, finding ways to be part of the community, which means serving God through their Guru Bhais, coming together to meditate together. We don't have to live together. Here we are, coming together virtually, but in community. Are there morning meditations? Go there. Could you serve the community in some way? Do it. It hardly matters what it is, because it's the energy we bring to it. It's the realization that environment is stronger than will. How many times did Master and Swamiji say that to us? So that we will come together in this community of people, all of whom are looking for God, all of whom are living their own life of renunciation, of being in the world, but not of the world, of remembering everything Swamiji was saying to himself when he was a child and when he was a teenager, that it is those spiritual qualities that bring us together that are going to help us attain our final goal. That it's not what we're attaining on the material plane. It's not even what we're giving on the material plane. I say that with great thought and deep feeling, because my medical profession and what I've been able to give there has been such a deep part of my spiritual path. But it's the spiritual lessons that we bring out into the world that give the world itself meaning. And this is all of what Swamiji said to us when he spoke to us that day, all of what he's written about. Make yourself a part of this magnificent spiritual community, this great gift that Swamiji and Master came together to make manifest, to provide this place for us where we could do our best, find our best, be our best, all of which adds up to becoming a part of a community in any way that is ours in this lifetime, whatever that is, and coming to it and bringing it our best. And then we feel all of those benefits of family. We feel the ways that environment really is stronger than will. So the next time we decide to get together with one of our friends and gossip a little, and we feel the way they lift us up, they speak about some spiritual truth, and suddenly we feel, what was I just doing? We get into a negative mood. We walk out into our community and our heart is lifted and we see all of the ways. You know, in our community, this sadhaka group that I was telling you about, usually each time we have one of these trainings, which is about every 2 years, the group comes together and does some great act of seva, of giving to the community. One year, the sadhakas built this beautiful pathway through which Swamiji could easily walk into the community when he arrived. They've helped put up shrines to each of the masters in our path. They've planted gardens. All of this, sadhakas, not necessarily people living in the community, but becoming a part of the community, contributing to the community. So it's their community. And once we make it ours, we then have access to all of what community can be, which is ultimately this very straight and beautiful and constantly leading upward path to attune ourselves ever more perfectly with Master and with Swamiji until we realize our oneness with them.